I was thinking today about one time. I don't know. I think I might have mentioned this once earlier, but I was, I do my daily contemplations. I usually write stuff down as it comes to me. And, I was kind of behind this building. It was actually private property, but it was like really big and near some woods. So I was back there taking a leak and stuff, and contemplating. And then somebody had called the cops. So the cops showed up and asked me what I was doing. Told me to, I'd probably have to leave. But in the meantime, well, when he asked me what I was doing, I told him I was contemplating about what
Hi, Keith.
Huh?
Keith?
Yes.
Okay, we hear you. You are in conversation on the phone.
No, I think he's talking to us.
Okay, I didn't understand clearly. Okay, I'm sorry, Keith. I'm sorry for that, gang.
Okay.
Because my English is not very good, and I was not sure you're talking to us. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, make sure we get it straightened out. Whatever. So I forget exactly the words I told him, but I told him I was thinking about reality or something, what is and what isn't. And whatever I said, though, he said, that's crazy talk. Like, well, is he going to run me in or something because I'm crazy? But so, and I do talk about this stuff on radio sometimes to my rock listeners, and a lot of them are interested in it. And say, go ahead, yeah, keep doing it. They actually like it. Some of them laugh at it a little bit, and some don't. They say they turn it off when I start talking. But yeah, it's like I guess it seems like crazy talk to address the issue of mental disturbance that we pretty much, I can assume most people have mental disturbance, and but there is like we also have a sense of being just present without having to address the mind and its possible deceptions. And
what the hell happened to you since last week? Last week you were like remaining with yourself and quiet and everything was good. And this week it could not be busier. Like all this experience about this and peeing and getting arrested and the cops telling you you're nuts and your listeners are doing this and that. None of this is true. So it's like last week you were like, oh, it's so wonderful. I'm remaining with myself, the self. I'm in the peace. I now know myself. I'm going to spend more time with myself. And this week we're in the weeds, literally.
That's what I was getting. I was getting to that, though.
Okay.
I was just getting to the fact that what we sometimes, like even, I know I get the sense of being the real self of what I am. It's just like it is like a nothingness.
But you desperately want to be something. It sounds like, especially There's a thing, I think it's in the Bible, that it talks about don't put pearls before swine. And Maharaj has said this knowledge is not just, to give out to everybody who's not interested in this knowledge. It's almost like you're kind of saying,
Well, yeah, I
hey,
guess.
I know this cool knowingness and it's kind of cool and this and that, but it's not like this. It's almost like yeah, I mean, like it says in the Bible, pearls before swine. You don't put knowledge in front of people who are going to laugh and not understand it. Actually, you're doing more harm than good, because then these people are going to get more into their own self and their own egoistic identification
But I always,
as this is silly and not something that I need to try, and look at how silly you are.
I always encourage them to
But
research
why?
non-duality
But why?
for the sake of their own freedom.
Or for the sake of you knowing some knowledge and wanting to give out some knowledge, or the sake of you trying to look knowledgeable. All of these things
No,
is not good.
It's not my reason for doing so. And
But
maybe
to say that, like, the people mostly don't want to hear it, some do want to hear it, some laugh at it. Like, this is not knowledge. This is not. It's better just to keep quiet and remain with your own selfless self. Play your records as your selfless self, and if somebody then asks a question or does something, or you come about in some way, a spontaneous utterance in the moment, that's fine. But to try and kind of, lay out that this is not non-duality. There's no such thing as non-duality. Non-duality is within the illusion. So it's like saying, baby talk, non-dualistic baby talk, and you're unborn.
I am glad you pointed it out, because I see what I what I am doing because of what you're saying. That I'm acknowledging the coming and going of being selfless self and not staying there.
That's the thing. Like, why talk about selfless self when you can just remain as your own self? And then spontaneous speaking will happen in the moment if it's needed. And I'm not beating on you, Keith, because much the same before I
Well,
went to see Maharaj, because of this presence, I tried to explain the sense of presence to people. I wanted to, because I didn't have a good, like, a lot of the people were like, why can't you just go to church like everybody else and do this and that? Why are you, like, trying to feel this presence of God or whatever? And so I also, and I think Maharaj talks about it too many times, when this is first kind of impressing, you feel an urge to go and share it with the world. But that's the time to keep quiet, because all you're going to do is two things. One, you're going to build up an egoistic sense of, I'm this teacher who's teaching, and I have this knowledge. This I needs to be empty. As Maharaj says, humble I, not an I that wants to teach, preach, or go out into the world like this. You remain with your selfless self. Scenes appear and disappear before you. You hear yourself speaking something, okay, but it's always correct in the moment, because you're not trying to make it happen, or you're not trying to do anything.
I'm glad I brought it up, because now you can set me straight.
Yeah, and again, I'm not trying to beat on you. I have, again, just before seeing Maharaj and going through this whole spiritual journey, whatever, there was a lot of questions, a lot of things were going on. I didn't understand. I needed clarification. I had no one in my circle that I could clarify things with, because how? And then I met through Skype, through Anne, through Charles, met Maharaj, and it started to come together. Then there was someone I could speak about. There was someone I could ask questions. There was somebody who I could say, especially when I went to the ashram, Maharaj, this selfless self, it's this, it's this subtle, it's this. And he just smiles. And so, but again, before going to Maharaj, there was so much disturbance. It was crazy, because, I was working the steps of a program, and I came upon this presence by working the steps, and I thought that everybody that this was the end result, that that's what a spiritual awakening was, to feel the sense of presence. And I began to try and understand this, and I began to try and speak about it, not in a preaching, but just to speak about it, because I needed information. I was a seeker who was sensing this sense of presence and wanted to find someone else who could tell me, who could explain, which is what led to the feet of the Guru. And Ramana Maharshi is a perfect example of somebody who started to become this, like he could feel this, he had this death experience or whatever, and started to feel this sense of being one, and he went and hid away and kept quiet. It's better, and now you're in a group of people who, when you speak about presence, there's an understanding of presence. There's an understanding of selfless self. So this is an open and actually a very beautiful access to be able to know yourself in a real sense. Because it is, it's a shame as you're going through a spiritual awakening, you're believing yourself to be going through this process, and it's total confusion. And at least in my case, I desperately wanted to know, is this happening to other people? Like, what is happening here? And you get on Facebook and you watch videos and all this, but understanding that the selfless self is constantly guiding you to your own self through this medium of duality. If you're earnest and you're truly seeking your selfless self, and you must know, and you're giving 100%, that's why Maharaj says it's not a part-time spirituality. You're giving 100%. I must know myself. Then everything unfolds, because it's all happening within your own self. So then this dream of you trying to find truth manifests itself with a master, and and speaking and listening and meditating. And all master says, if it's true master, if it's a master that just wants your money and would like you to come to his ashram and have the worst is the silent retreat, where everybody goes and doesn't say a word, but inside the mind is like, oh, look at me, I'm being so silent, and oh, look at you, you're being silent, and oh, I wonder when the time to not be silent will be, or how silent I am. This is nonsense. So a true master is just going to say, spend some time with you, because you are that. You have to investigate this. You have to go straight to the source. Direct experience of your own self, recognition in the projection, realization. The knower of the knowledge of existence. And then that's it. Then this desire to share this knowledge or whatever, there's no desire there, because you know yourself in a real sense. To whom are you sharing this knowledge? There are no others. And if there's spontaneous speaking in the moment, okay, but I'm not the speaker. And I know there is no individual listener. There is just listening and speaking and speaking and listening, and it's one and the same through various instruments that are labeled with different labels that you've been identifying with as yourself, and now you know you're not those.
Well, that's why I bring this stuff up, or whatever I bring up, not just what I brought up today. So I get your take on it, and
Absolutely.
it helps clarify things.
Get your take on it. The you that's not pretending to be somebody. It's your own self speaking in different various forms. That's why the most beautiful thing is to read I Am That and know that Nisargadatta Maharaj's responses are from the selfless self knowing itself, And the questions are just whatever concepts the selfless self happens to be holding in the moment, because it's like, and when you read it like that, it's like the selfless self is dialoguing with its own self and removing these various concepts. And it's just a dialogue between you and you. As is everything. Right away, we go right back to dream. In dream, all the dialogue. If you were to dream about going and seeing a master and listening to the master, and you say, oh my gosh, I'm feeling this so good. But you know, it was all your own self.
Mm-hmm.
That you were feeling was your own self. This master that was in your dream was your own self. This you that was going to the master, your own self. All the disciples seated around and bowing to the master, your own self. And when you wake up, you know this. And waking up here is just knowing yourself in a real sense. You are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain body. Body's not your identity, so nothing that's happening in the body-based existence can be happening to you. And I think it is Nisargadatta Maharaj who says, he talks about in one of the books, he says that when he goes to such and such a village, he has to speak about God. He can't speak about truth because they'll stone him, you know? And he says, yes, you worship this deity and you bow and you do this and you do that and God is great and all this sort of stuff. And he says, I have to say that, you know, because they're not going to listen to knowledge. But knowing that no matter whether you're speaking about God or speaking about knowledge, it's one and the same. It's just a different perspective or a different language, I guess you might even say, a different way of saying the same thing, more subtle, more direct. Some people you cannot go completely direct because this is not, and all that does is just confusion or somebody, oh, shut the mind. Oh, this person is just off their rocker. I'm not listening. You'll notice even Nisargadatta Maharaj book, I Am That, very bestseller. But not everyone in the world, even if you talk to them, you say, oh, have you read Nisargadatta Maharaj? I Am That. I am what? No. Because again, you, being the you that you are, within this bubble of illusion, are placing this in opportune moments and opportune times when there is a desire to know yourself. Basically, from the body form, you say, I wish to know myself. And from the self that you are, you manifest the experience of finding yourself. And continue to provide the earnestness and the drive and that desire until that desire is one pointed like a laser. Oh, it looks like, did Keith drop off?
Oh,
more
I'm
people
sorry.
came. Oh, okay. It switched then, okay.
But what about also the, I mean, I usually don't talk about this stuff on the radio unless I'm actually feeling, at least, unless I'm feeling kind of free of my usual sense of self. And as far as speak me speaking to myself, it's like I'm speaking to them as myself, but they won't even know that the parts of myself that are them won't even know about the possibility of being free of the usual sense.
Oh, but now you're the one who has to carry the torch into the
No,
world
I'm just helping them be
to
aware.
save the world. That's
I just want them to know the possibilities there. Most people never even heard of non-duality until I
but
started talking about it.
you, the you that you are, has like each of these little body forms is doing its own thing. There's not a, when you know it's not true, then why get involved in the illusion? It's only going to hurt you and throw you back into the illusory ditch.
I can sort of see that.
You know,
But
if there's any place that you can hang a hat, you can wear a hat. If there's no place for you to hang a hat, then there's nowhere that you can hang a hat. But then you also wouldn't have a desire to do anything.
but there's so many people on the web and stuff talking about it, and they're
And
sharing the possibility of that there is another way of experiencing the present.
again,
Otherwise, nobody would know about it.
know yourself in a real sense. Prior to beingness, was there a web? No. After leaving the body, web? No. However, what you're speaking about, you know, this is the way a lot of seekers seek. Especially nowadays, like, and I think even Maharaj said, you know, 100 years ago, we probably never would have gotten in this way of like going to see a guru. It's not in my culture, you know? So even if I would have felt that sense of presence or whatever, who knows? But this internet has allowed the opportunity for a seeker of truth to seek. And Maharaj was on the other end of that. But again, that's all in the body-based illusion. Just know that even with all of that, even with the beauty of the internet and all the people who seem to be knowing themselves, and also all you got to watch out for all the shop, the people who want to set up shop. That's the most terrible.
Right.
Especially, oh, I spent, you know, 2 days with Maharaj and now come to my sessions. Because even our lineage is absolutely clear about that. Not a penny, not a penny, because otherwise you fall in the illusory ditch of I have knowledge that I'm giving to you. Well, who am I to give knowledge to you? I'm nobody. And there's no others. So if I set up shop charging for knowledge, I don't know myself in a real sense.
Well, related to that, I did just today, I think it was. I stumbled on this guy. He was on Quora. It's like a question and answer, information exchange, and
I'm on this. I have to, every so often people will pop up and ask a question.
actually, I think maybe that's where I've seen a couple of your posts. But this guy, says you could tell he has a sense of what we're talking about. Anyway, he said that Quora asked him to charge for his answers, and he said I'm not going to do that, but he conceded and said, well, he'll post that you can donate if you want to.
Yeah, see, I got this same notification of that Cura is that you can monetize because of the amount of people that view your answers and such. And I didn't even respond to the email.
Oh.
So,
Yeah.
But again, and Cura is just something that I get an email and it says, can you answer this question, blah, blah, blah. And in the middle of a work day, boom, send it and then continue with my thing. It's not like you're not trying to build a community or anything. See, that's the danger. You don't, and I think it was Ranjit Maharaj who said he didn't want to be a master when everyone was saying, hey, we have no one to be in our lineage and to lead our lineage, so to speak. And he didn't want to be.
Mm.
That it's not because as Sri Ramakant Maharaj says, when you take your position, especially in the ashram like that, you have to step down and say, okay, now I'm a master, you're a disciple, and this and this, and it's not like that.
You have to make concessions to language and
There's no, you know, you're just going about everything very nice and this and that, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I need advice or this. It's spontaneous in the moment. If there's a sense of a teacher, then because nothing can be taught. And as I said, only master will say, direct experience of your own self. This is how.
But some of these people have to make a living because they're not getting their paycheck from the government.
But they have to get a job. Like Ranjit Maharaj had a job. Nisargadatta Maharaj had a job. Sri Ramakant Maharaj had a job. Spirituality is not a job.
They're giving workshops and stuff, their jobs.
Whoops, hold on. I couldn't, that part I didn't hear. What did you say?
Oh, they're considering giving workshops and renting the space and everything for a job.
Yeah. But again,
No.
just like Maharaj said, you know, the ashram is there and people do donate to the ashram. And there's a donation box. When I was there, I donated. I wasn't even sure how much to donate, but I donated because I had talked to some other disciples and such. And it's just like, but Maharaj did not come to me and say, well, Mr. Richards, instead of staying at a hotel for this 1 week or this 1 month, you've been staying at the ashram, and you know the hotel would have been like 70 rupees a day or whatever. And now, no. The only thing we had to pay for a little bit was lunch. And that's because someone was actually hand making our lunch and delivering it, which was, that was wonderful. So, but yeah, nobody asks for any money. Even when Maharaj came to America and people were like, oh, we're putting this collection or whatever. Oh, okay. But Maharaj is not accepting because evidently other gurus who had come there and spoken at one circle had taken like a cut of the proceeds or whatever. Maharaj did not. Because as he said before, he worked at a bank. His retirement is very nice. Everything's good with him and his wife. He's not trying to set up shop. When you know yourself in a real sense, no teaching, no teacher. The knower of the knowledge of your existence. The knowledge of existence, presence, brought about this seeming world, the appearance, and all these things because I exist. The knower of this sense of I exist brought about nothing. Just is. Provided the ability for the appearance of all these things due to the knowledge of existence. The knowledge of existence, when they talk about knowledge, the knowledge is that subtle sense of presence, that just I. This is knowledge, not book knowledge. Maharaj says that all the time about literal knowledge, bookish knowledge. This is not bookish knowledge. Knowledge is the subtle sense of existence, just I, selfless self. That's the knowledge. I exist. The knower of the sense of existence.
so actually anything that you seem to know is actually yourself.
It's all in the body-based illusion. So what is the value? Again, we talked about in the beginning of this little broadcast, the value of, in the beginning, is to get to know the knowledge of your own self so that then you meet a master who says you are that, remain with your own self and discard all this knowledge. It brought you here. Maharaj says, like a train, this is the final destination. You traveled the train, all these different things. Okay, went to this guru, read this book, had a little spiritual experience, and now the train has stopped. Final destination, know yourself in a real sense. Nothing more, nothing less.
I feel like one of those little circles on a computer that keeps cycling, and before you can move on.
No, but you're finished. You're out of that circle. The circle is the I am somebody else, and all this knowledge is important, and I read books, and oh, look at all this stuff that's going on, and how much knowledge I'm accruing, and all that. That's the circle. You're out of this circle. And the knowledge is that you never were in the circle. The circle was within you. All of this disturbance and all this illusory appearance is within your own self. And you were troubled by it for a time, thinking you were in it.
Thinking I had to wait for it to come.
Yeah, there's no waiting, no time. If you're formless, how can there be time? In order to have time, you have to have an object in space. No space, no object, just you. And you flip right back to dream. It's the exact same. Lay down to sleep. There's deep sleep. You don't know anything, nothing to know. It's just kind of finished. A sense of existence. Boom. Dream world is created. Dream body is created. Identification with a dream body creates the concept of a story of a dream. That for a time you're moving around and talking to people and experiencing and doing all these things. And when you wake up, you know none of it was true. All the people you were speaking to were yourself. The entire dream was arising out of yourself. The sun, the moon, the water, everything, even the experiences were all within yourself. You wake up, you say, oh, I had a very nice dream, or I had not such a nice dream, but it's finished. With the availability of this body form, you are seeing a long dream. But again, it's not individual body form. There's no individuality, just like in a dream. If you were dreaming that one of the dream characters died and you went to a little dream funeral, did anything happen?
No.
There was no loss. There was no gain because no one was born. No one is dying. If you dreamt, quote, an entire lifetime within your dream, you'd wake up and you'd understand, oh, wow. Like I dreamt I had a family and my family, and then my kids grew up, and then here I was on my deathbed, and I dreamt that I was gone, and my kids were so like with me and all this. It was so beautiful. And then I woke up and oh, it was just a dream.
So when you die, do you just go back to being goo after you pass away?
You aren't goo now. And you won't die. This body form will no longer be able to sustain your essence. And therefore then you just, the presence is that's the only thing that is. All these bodies.
That's all there is.
Yeah, all these bodies that are appearing and disappearing. I think it talks about the forms appearing and being created and destroyed, created and destroyed, created and destroyed. But the presence is. And the knower of the sense of presence is. And we can't even say eternal because eternity doesn't make sense when there's nothing. And you know yourself in a real sense. Oh, just die, just die. There's no one dying, no one being born. Dying is a concept that's impressed in mind. I am dying.
Mhm.
And then the experience of I am dying, the illusory concept I am dying, is impressed. But in reality, there will be no experience I am dying. And we've all seen people who have passed away, who've gone to funerals and such. That's your own self. But the self that you're using, that you're here, is the same self that was there, because that's the only one self. And the truth is, there's no experience, no experiencer. So even you can say, oh, but I'm going to miss this earthly experience. But you're currently not experiencing. There's just a delusion of, I'm in the dream. I'm a dream character. When you wake up from the dream, you know that none of that was experiencing. No matter how long you were dreaming, what was happening, none of it was true. Then you get this very nice sense of your peace, this no disturbance, because you're not thinking about all these things that you used to believe were true. Maharaj talks about you're no longer bothering yourself with illusory problems and fighting illusory enemies.
I like that.
Yeah.